So the GoPro Hero 12 and the DJI Action 4 are both phenomenal little cameras, but if I had to pick one, which would I pick?
Mr. Black.
By the way, welcome to the channel. My name's Danny Black. I love to share with you cool gear that comes my way. If you're new here, don't be a stranger. Click that button right there. I'll put links to everything down in the description, plus a surprise link. And yes, I'm using both cameras right now, so you can look side by side, or if I switch between one or the other, and using the native microphones with the wind reduction on auto, so you can kind of hear what it's gonna sound like out in the wild. I do have the Hero 12 at 5.3K, the highest resolution at 30 frames per second, so I can have HDR on, and I have DJI Action 4 at the highest resolution for that, which is 4K, and we're gonna go with 60 frames per second, both with their regular standard stabilization on. And an important note is that both of the companies did send me their cameras, but they didn't ask me to even make this video. This is not for them, this is for you. And also, there's no brand loyalty here or fanboying going on. This is just, it is what it is. And yes, there are a lot of videos out there already where they're comparing these two together, but I don't know if I really like the idea of comparing the two because they're almost kind of in different classes. Now, if we're talking about which is the best action camera, honestly, I'm gonna pick the Hero 12. The Hero 12 has the best stabilization with that max lens 2.0 being 4K. It literally just checks all the boxes for the perfect action camera. Now the Action 4 is not terrible. I mean, it's actually amazing. When I was snowboarding with it, the footage looked great. I was actually just like in awe watching it back. I was like, whoa, that looks really great. So I was highly impressed, but like if I was to compare the two in an action scenario, like if you look at them both side by side, I think that the Hero 12 just has that better stabilization with their Hyper Smooth 6.0. Now they both have HDR, which is great for like backlit conditions. In my testing, it seems like the Action 4 just takes a little bit longer to like get that HDR kind of going. They both have log 10-bit color for color grading afterwards, and this is kind of how it looks, especially if we color grade it.
Let's go easy. Whoop, doing the shock right in the middle of the ocean. Woo! Oh, come on, easy.
Both have 4K 120 frames per second, which is a really nice looking slow motion, but GoPro does have 2K at 480 frames per second, which means you can slow it down 8 times at 2K, where the Action 4 has to go down to 1080p to get that 480 frames per second. And really just comparing the specs, I mean, the GoPro looks like it's the winner because it's got the higher resolution. Also, the Hero 12 has the new Bluetooth capabilities where you can hook up your AirPods or hook up microphones to it. The GoPro also has that new mounting system where it has a core thread out the bottom, which is pretty convenient, I must say, but DJI Action 4 also has that magnetic mounting system, which makes it really easy just to pop from one mount to the next. And if you were like wondering how solid that magnetic mount is, well, when I was on that plane ride, I actually tested it out, held it up against the wind, and it held. And that was kind of scary because I was like, well, if it doesn't, I'll lose the camera. And again, there are like little features here and there that kind of tip the scales one way or the other for me. Like DJI has a GPS remote, so now you can have those telemetry overlays. But then you can get like third-party lenses for your GoPro and have anamorphic, have macro, and even the max lens mod. Hopefully more. GoPro has light painting modes, which is fun to play with. DJI has that invisible selfie stick mode that you can go through the app and remove the selfie stick, and that looks awesome. GoPro has the cloud storage. Not that I've really ever used it, but I mean, they have it. And the Action 4 can just plug right into your computer and you can use it as a webcam without any other additional software, and it looks great as a webcam. And GoPro has that new mode where you can film vertical videos without even turning your camera. Action 4 has the color sensor in the front for detecting that color scene, especially underwater. GoPro has more voice commands, and Action 4 has easier time-lapse presets. GoPro has more fields of view to choose from, like Hyperview. I mean, the ultra-wide lens on the Action 4 is not too far off of the Hyperview on the GoPro. Like that's pretty much the same. Honestly, I'm gonna give it to the Action 4 on that one because at least with that wide, ultra wide field of view, you don't get that warped effect. And I also find value in the front screen being touch enabled because there's a lot of times when it's easier to change the settings on the front screen. That's a really good feature. Now this next part is probably gonna be what makes you decide one camera or the other. I did a battery test, both at 4K 30 frames per second or 25 frames per second. And here's where it gets tricky. As you can see, the GoPro stopped recording at like 23 minutes to keep it from overheating. And it was hot, like I felt it, it was hot. And the Action 4 wasn't hot at all. But when I turned it back on, there was still 63% battery left. And the Action 4 is at 76%. Now, before everyone goes running to complain about overheating, in a normal everyday use where you take the camera out, film for a little bit, put it in your pocket, you're not gonna have problems with that. If you're mountain biking, if you're snowboarding, if you're somewhere where there's a lot of airflow through it, like when I was on that plane, the whole time on that plane ride, it had no signs of overheating. It recorded the whole thing, and that was like 35 minutes, and there was no problem with that whatsoever. But if you're just comparing it in the exact same scenario, the Action 4 never overheated, even in the same resolution and frame rate. They just never had that problem. So if you are gonna be indoors and, you know, talking to your camera for a long period of time, that could be a deal breaker for you for the Hero 12. So yeah, there's a lot of give and take. And when you list out all the features, it seems like the GoPro has more versatility to it. And I mean, just looking at the image, it does look better. Like, it's a better overall image, especially with that HDR. But I think for the average consumer, like if my friends or family were going on like a trip somewhere, like a holiday, and they were like, which action camera should I take that goes underwater and gets good footage, I would actually say the Action 4, because it's, for one, a lot more simple to use. The picture quality, especially in low light, if you're gonna be, you know, shooting things at dinner time or inside, I think that you'll be happier with that. And there's other things that are just like easy to use in the menu system, like even adjusting the external microphone levels, so you can just go in and do that really easily, really quickly, really efficiently. And speaking of those external microphones, it's just so much easier to plug in a USB-C enabled microphone, and you don't need an external media mod like you do with the GoPro. So for me, like on your holidays, traveling on cruise ships, or if you're vlogging, I think the Action 4 is just a lot easier to get out and start recording, and it just works and works well. But if they're like going on a mountain biking trip or going snowboarding or doing some skydiving or something like that, I would say the Hero 12 would be the way to go, especially with that Max Lens 2.0. And it is nicer to have that 5K resolution when you need it. But again, both cameras are great, and one just might fit your needs more than the other. That's a really loud bird. And I'll keep tinkering around with it and learning new features, and also compare it to any future action cameras that might be in the works from, like, you know, Insta360. All right, well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. A lot of content coming up, especially GoPro related. So if you like this kind of stuff, stay tuned, and see you next time. Bye.